Okay, auditory learner time. This is going to be the study guide, probably part one for dental materials class, which is DH 415. Um, the lectures I'm going to be going over is going to be the dental materials expanded functions lecture, properties of dental materials, the treatment planning lecture, and the nomenclature lecture, and perhaps the alginate lecture. So we'll probably finish it there. Those should be pretty quick. So starting with the first one, the dental materials and expanded functions. 1976 was when registered dental hygienists were able to provide local anesthesia, but not in all states. RDHAP came to be in the 1980s. In 2005, the RDH was no longer to do RDA duties, only DA duties, which is why it's important to have your RDA. In 2014, the ITR and RDM certification came to be. Technically, that's not that long ago, which means that we can place provisional restorations and x-rays can be taken before dentist exam at our discretion. In the future, there might be mid-level practitioner statuses to further the profession. So it's good for dental hygienists to know about dental materials because we understand things better and we can explain things better and we can educate people better as well. So things that that withstand destructive oral environments are occlusal forces, temperature changes, pH changes, warmth and humidity. So we got the physics and we got the weather. All changing and the chemistry changing in the mouth can all affect and destroy the oral environment. Make sure to know the difference between safe and effective. Safe means will not cause harm. Effective means that it does what it claims. And that's great to know for future things that I will be discussing for future assignments. Anyways, dental materials, they meet the patient's aesthetics, cost, time, treatment, and longevity, safety and efficacy. All right, so the dental standard specifications are set by the ADA, which is the American Dental Association. The ANSI is the American National Standards Institute, and ISO is International Standards Organization. The FDA is the Food and Drug Administration, and they set standards and specifications for medical devices. So not OSHA. OSHA does not set standards and specifications. OSHA is for hazard control, okay? So the ADA develops standards and specifications for a huge range of dental products, such as composite, oral hygiene products, radiographic stuff, dental equipment, and many more things. ADA specification number 1, amalgam 1929. Okay, so requirements vary. Class 1 is GMP, good manufacturing practice. Class 2 is performance standards plus GMP. Class 3 is clinical data. So class 1 is, which is GMP, good manufacturing practice, is standard of purity and quality of uniform, such as prophy paste and bottled water. Class 2 performance standards, sometimes they're grandfathered in, similar to existing like amalgam, but mechanical properties are measured. In Class 3, clinical data and safety and efficacy, such as implants. The ADA certification grants certifications to consumer products, safe and effective, and professional dental products review. Okay. Then we got to know types of supervision. So direct supervision means the dentist is in the facility and we can provide anesthesia or nitrous oxide or soft tissue curettage with direct supervision, physically present in the facility. General supervision is the dentist is not in the treatment directly in the treatment facility, but we have to have the procedure authorized and verbally written in the treatment plan. And we can do everything else that we usually do without anesthesia. So we can do preventative therapeutic intervention, prophy scaling, root planing, topical, therapeutic, impressions, light curing, treatment, sealants and things like that. We can work in public health clinics as well, and we can provide direct supervision for RDAs and RDA-EFs when they do pit and fissure sealants and coronal polishing after the RDH determines that teeth calculus is free. ITRs and RDMs, we can do teledentistry. So prior to a dentist exam, we already know this, I know this, we need to have x-rays, extraoral, mouth mirror inspection, charting. Allowable duties prior. So things that we can do prior to the exam is we can take x-rays, we can do extraoral duty, we can do a mouth mirror inspection and charting prior to the dentist coming in. After the dentist comes in, we can perform what's called radiographs, probing, stuff like that. Okay. The RDM certification, we can decide to take radiographs before the dentist see the patient. Also, treatment is only allowed on a patient of record, which means he has been examined by the doctor, and there's documentation for that. All right, so just to review, make sure we know what RDM and ITR is, also what a patient of record is, knowing what we can do before and after the initial exam of the patient. So before the initial exam, we can take emergency x-rays. We can also do mouth mirror inspections and charting. So again, we can provide supervision for RDAs and RDAEFs in public health settings, making sure that they can do coronal polishing and sealants after we determine there's no calculus left. Again, general versus direct supervision, make sure you know that, which we do, I do. Then we got to know the ADA certifications for consumer and professional dental products. They make sure they have good manufacturing practices, performance standards, and clinical data, 1, 2, 3, class 1, 2, 3 for requirements. And so make sure we know what the ADA, the ANSI, ISO, FDA is. Those are standards. They set the standards and specifications. You know the difference between safe and effective. And perhaps the timelines. All right, so that's great. That was not too bad. Next thing is dental properties. Okay, this is going to be juicy. Okay, so properties are selected based on how materials behave. So there's physical, chemical, and biological properties. We're going to first talk about mechanical properties. We have force, stress, and dimensional changes. In force is when there's a load applied and it creates a stress. Stress is the name where force is the named for the force that created it, creates dimensional change. So force is load applied to a material, can be visible, can be measurable. Stress is inside the object. It's the resistance of the material, equal and opposite to force that created it. Okay, and then stress is invisible, but it can be measured. Okay, so force is visible, stress is invisible, force is visible, stress is invisible, because you can't really see the force, right? Such as brackets, braces, and implants. That's stress. Force is something that it's a load applied to the material. And then stress is like a pounds per square inch, like somebody who is getting like nails all over their body or stepping on a nail. Compressive force is applied directly towards each other, squeezing and compressing. And then compressive stress is just like unnecessary, like bruxism, kind of unnecessary pressure. It puts a lot of pressure in different parts of the whole tooth structure. Okay. So an example of compressive force would be when clenching, and compressive stress would be like grinding or pressing as well. Tensile force is something that is being pulled apart and elongating, like tension from braces, rubber bands, or even a clamp from a root canal setup. Okay, shearing force is cutting. Shearing's like shear stress, like two things going towards each other, but passing each other. Force that goes across. All right, that's going to be kind of like grinding sideways and also putting a lot of pressure on one area of the tooth that can crack um, a buccal cusp. Okay, then we got bending force, which is like something that's stretching, but like is like in the middle, such as, so the bending force, you want to think of a bridge. So that's when there's compression, stretching, and sometimes shearing when there's happening on the pontic. Pontic is what creates the detrimental effects to the existing teeth. Then we got torsion, which is twisting. Then we got dimensional change, strains, distortions, or deformation. Those are all dimensional strains. Dimensional change, strain, distortion, deformation. Accuracy is critical in dentistry. Dimensional change can occur in shape, volume, and length, measured as a percentage, and can be temporary or permanent change. Then we got two phases of dimensional change, which is elasticity and plasticity. Okay, elasticity. It's something that can return to its original shape. It's temporary and reversible. Dimensional change is proportional to force in elasticity, which makes sense. Modulus of elasticity is how easily the material changes in response, the stiffness or the resistance to change. So a higher modulus of elasticity is stiff and resists change. A low modulus elasticity is more easily. So a high modulus elasticity would be like a coil for your car suspension, and a low modulus elasticity would be like a rubber band. So measured during elastic phase while dimensional change is proportional to force, then you have to do what's called a little formula. So stress divided by strain equals modulus of elasticity percentage. So stress, which is the force of the material, divided by strain, which is the dimensional change, you equal that, get times 100, and you get a percentage. So stress on top, strain on the bottom. Force on top, dimensional change on the bottom. Little formula says that we have to know this. All right. Then we gotta know between flexible and rigid. Flexible, less force causes change. Low modulus of elasticity, and it's rigid, stiff, more force needed to cause change. Okay, that was elasticity. Now, plasticity is the quality of being shaped or molded by forces. So something that can, like a paper clip. There we go. Permanent change after stress removed. Example, amalgam, ortho wire, wax. All right, then we got to know what proportional limit is. It's the yield point, which is once we go above the proportional limit, it's reversible. It's irreversible. We can't go back anymore. But if we are below the proportional limit, it is reversible. Yeah. So elasticity is below proportional limit because it goes back, it reverses, and plasticity is above proportional limit, which is irreversible. An example of low force flexes an explorer temporarily, but more force will deform it. Low force lengthens a spring, but can return to more force lengths. Okay, we talked. Okay, elongation, how much material can stretch. All right, then we got to know ultimate strength, how much until it bends. All right, where the external force or cohesive bond is greater than external force greater than cohesive bond. That's ultimate strength at which something fractures. Stress strain curve, stress concentration, time dependent properties, time longer force applied, more distortion. Example is removing alginate impression. Creep means slow distortion due to continuous compression, stress relaxation, slow decrease in internal. All right, cohesive versus adhesive. All right, cohesion is the same, adhesion is different. Cohesion is attraction to the same molecules to each other. And a bond will within the material holding it together. Adhesion is attachment of dissimilar bonds, bonds between different materials holding them each other. So cohesion could be like water coming together on top of a leaf. Adhesion is kind of like a bonding. Yes. Or cementing. Then we got to adsorption. Okay, adsorption is basically that impression spray that we use when we take impressions and we pour the model so there's no bubbles. That means that the ability of a material to maintain close contact with another material. So it keeps things together very closely. So that can see why it's called wettability. Adsorption is impression spray. It acts as high surface energy, attracts. Its adhesive is greater than cohesiveness, which is why it's better for impressions. Know the difference between hydrophobic and hydrophilic. All right, hydrophilic means it's good with liquid. All right, hydrophobic means it's bad with liquid. And again, a surfactant is a bubble-free spray. A surfactant is adsorption, less bubbles. You gotta know viscosity, hardness, all this stupid shit, basically. We know about color. Okay, then we're talking about value, hue, and chroma. So value, again, is black and white. Brightness, amount of gray in there. Hue is what's the dominant color, red, blue, yellow. And then chroma is intensity, is it the saturation. So value is the amount of gray, hue is the actual color, and then chroma is the intensity, the saturation. Know the difference between translucency and opacity, fluorescence versus metamerism. Material appears different in light sources. And fluorescence is a material emits light. Okay, chemical properties, we got setting reactions, physical thermoplastic, changed by heating, solidification, liquid to solid, gelation, liquid to semi-solid. Okay, so all this is just stupid shit. Okay, make sure we know people have nickel allergies and allergic response to stuff. Okay, we're done with this crap. All right, next thing is going to be the comprehensive treatment planning. This is going to be easy because we know this. This is all about SOAP notes and understanding what SOAP means. S is subjective, O is objective, A is assessment, and P is plan or procedure. With the procedures that were done. So S is just the data presented by the patient. It's the primary concern, symptoms, everything that the person is telling us. Objective is like x-rays and chart restorations of existing and looking at occlusion, because that we can measure. Also like pulp sensitivity, you know, with percussion, thermal, we can measure that. Taking study models is part of objectives. Photographs are part of objectives. So before, okay, I'm not going to get into that. Different types of diagnosis. We have differential, working, and definitive, which is diagnosed by the dentist. And that's going to be going under A. So whatever the diagnosis is falls under A because that's assessment. Okay, so ASA, class this, AAP, categorization grade this, calculus code this. Okay. All that stuff tells us about the health and where they're at. That's A. And then P is prognosis. We can put the prognosis, we can put the procedure that we did there, prognosis for adverse risks, alternative treatment, consequences of no treatment. All right, that's just procedure, okay? Modifiers of treatment plan, okay, we don't gotta go through all that. Systemic treatment, acute treatment, resolve symptomatic problems whenever they occur. So acute treatment is something like extractions, root canals, medication, because these are from injuries or things that are broken. So that's acute. Acute is not something that happen fast. One thing we need to do is manage the risks. Okay, reassess all this. Easy peasy lemon squeezy things. Okay, we know what these things are. We're looking at removable partial dentures and all this stuff. We know this stuff. And then, so we're going to go to the next thing, which is the nomenclature. Another thing that we're very good at. I'm very good at. So we're going to talk about the Black's classifications, the surfaces, and the caries classification. So again, you know all the surfaces of teeth: mesial, distal, occlusal, buccal, lingual, facial, palatal. And then we're going to go into class ones. Class ones are posterior one surfaces, usually occlusal, okay, is usually on the premolars and the molars. All right, class ones can also be on the buccal pit, on the occlusal 2/3, lingual or buccal of the posterior teeth. And however, there's also class one linguals of the maxillary incisor, which is like right on the cingulum or just on the pit there on the incisal pit. Okay, then class twos are posterior teeth as well, but this time we have a mesial involved or a distal involved. It could be mesial, occlusal, distal, but only on posterior teeth. Those are class twos. Could include the lingual as well, but that'd still be a class two if it was on the posterior teeth. Again, so class two, and then class threes are going to be anterior teeth that are only mesial or occlusal, and mesial or distal. Class fours are when it's mesial, distal, and they involve the incisal edge. Okay, that's class fours, incisal edge. Now, class fives are these gingival or cervical parts on the facial or lingual of the anterior teeth. That's when people have like all these cervical stuff, abfractions or carious reasons, or, you know, whatever acid erosion is happening at the gingival third of like towards the gingiva of the teeth on the cervical area. Those are non-carious cervical lesions. All right. We have attrition, abrasion, erosion. Make sure we know what attrition is. It's just basically like grinding tooth to tooth. Abrasion is like material to the tooth. And then erosion is like chemical acidic stuff that happens on the corners as well. And here we go with ADA caries classification, which is something we're not really talking about. It's either sound, initial, moderate, or advanced. Color, texture. Sound means there's no surface change. Initial means visually concavitated. So initial means we can see what's kind of happening. There might be something going on. But sound means that just by looking at it, you can't really tell anything is wrong. Then we have moderate, which means that, okay, there is something obviously happening there. We need to do something soon. Advanced is distinct and it's very permanent, like very obvious, huge holes. All right, and that's going to be, again, sound, initial, moderate, advanced. Those are ADA caries classification systems. So sound, sound, initial, moderate, advanced. Again, sound is normal, translucency, glossy. Initial means there's a lesion within there, color is starting to show. Moderate means it's really showing, it's deeper, shows dentin loss, and then advanced means just slam dunk. You need to get some work done ASAP. And that's it. All right, that's it for that one. Alginate. Let's talk about alginate. Okay, I know for sure we're going to need to know what a negative and a positive is. A negative is the first impression itself. The actual impression would take is a negative. The replica or the stone model is a positive. Okay, we use cast to fabricate dental appliances. Alginate is a powder. It's potassium alginate from seaweed. It is an irreversible hydrocolloid, okay? And it's water-based, okay? Advantages, it's easy to mix, it's cheap, accurate for studying models and casts. Disadvantages, dimensional change, not the highest accuracy, not the highest transfer of details. That's the disadvantages of alginate. Then there's evaporation, imbibition, and syneresis. We know what evaporation is, and is in the air. So water is lost. Imbibition is when it's stored in liquid and it absorbs the water and it expands. So imbibition is growing, it's absorbing too much. Syneresis is material shrinking, hardening, and it's like becomes crusty. All right, so again, imbibition, you're absorbing water, and then syneresis is the thing shrinks, it's losing water. Okay. Excellent picture. Proper handling of alginate. We need to wrap it immediately in a damp towel prior to pouring, up to 1 hour in a damp towel. If we're gonna pour it in more than 1 hour, we need to store it in a humid place, like a Ziploc bag or a container. If it's gonna be more than an hour, pour gypsum. Gypsum will be separated within 1 hour. Keep powder dry in the container. Keep can closed. When we remove, so this is in the academic life, when you remove alginate impressions, it's a snap removal. They want you to do a quick force. I don't agree with that, but that's going to be that's a question on the test. That's going to be the answer. Again, we need to measure the trays. Rim lock trays are like impression, they have retentions around the edges and the margins, and then perforated trays have holes in them. We need to examine the mouth to know which one is going to be good. Pick a tray that fits good, buckle lingually, make sure we have some space to move in there. It has to fit slightly loose, 4 millimeters of thickness of impression. All right. And yep, we gotta have the right tension, distal extension, the height of the vestibule. We gotta make sure we get that up there, so we get that roll. Tray should cover most of the alveolar ridge. All right, I know this. Yeah. We need 1 scoop is 1 quadrant, 2 scoops is a whole arch, like a medium mandible. 3 scoops is for large people. All right, measure accurately, never change water to powder ratio. And here we go with this fucking measurement. I know she's gonna give it to us. Measure how many milliliters is there. All right, I'm gonna have to go and look into this later. I believe it was 6.8. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's going to be a bottom. Oh, that's going to be wrong. Bottom of the curve, cylinder level, meniscus. So the correct line is the meniscus. So that is 6.1. Okay, 6.8, bro. That's just right below the 7. Yeah. Yep, 6.8, the meniscus. Okay. What the fuck is with all this shit on alginate? Oh my God, this is not spatulate, work fast, gel trade, regular, gel trade fast. Okay. Regular sets in 2 minutes and 30 seconds, fast sets in 1 minute and 45 seconds. You better not be asking this stuff. Um, no lollygagging, gotta get in there. All right. Okay, so all this is really easy crap. All right, acceptable versus not acceptables. Um, okay, moving forward, byte registrations, we know what the hell that is. We can use wax, we can use PVS, okay. People use AlgaNet for special effects. All right, so that is part one of dental material study guide.